Hello and welcome. My name is Danielle, and today I have a very special guest with us. Her name is Patricia Wald Hopkins, and she is a contributing writer with Rada Publishing House in the upcoming book, Stories of the Goddess, Divine Feminine Frequency Keepers. And I just want to quickly give you guys a description of this fantastic book because it's very powerful and full of wisdom. And what we are doing here today is we're just going to have a quick conversation with Patricia and hear a little bit about her chapter. This book itself is a collaborative book with a group of women, and it is a powerful and inspiring book that celebrates the courage and determination of women who listen to their hearts and follow their inner knowing above all else. As we know, we have been in a world where women have been subjugated, suppressed, for far too long, and they've been hiding gifts. So we're here to break free and break those chains and reclaim our inner magic and embrace our divine feminine energy and rise above these obstacles to bring in and anchor a beautiful world with love and integrity. So Patricia, I would love to welcome you. It's such an honor to be with you and hear about your upcoming chapter with Rada Publishing House. So welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I feel very blessed to be part of this project.
Yeah, I feel that too. And just being with you and feeling your energy right now, it's really powerful. This book itself is going to have such a strong frequency. And when you originally were approached on this project, what inspired you to kind of take action and work with Rada Publishing House with the Stories of the Goddess?
Well, I generally follow my body's reaction to things, right? I just feel it like a whole body yes. And so that was my first acceptance of doing that. It was just like my body was like, yes, I heard the title, I read the description, and I had, spoken with Rada, and I was just a full body yes. I wasn't exactly entirely sure what the story would come out to be, but then with these sorts of projects, you never really are. Like spirit, for me anyway, guides me or the goddess, as to what is actually going to be written. But I knew that I needed to tell a story that was like living deep in my heart, and it just felt like this was the perfect place to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So when you started the process, could you share what that was like for you and a little bit about your chapter in the Stories of the Goddess?
So for me, I love to write. However, I feel like I'm not in charge a lot of time of how it's written, and so I'll get downloads of pieces of it, and I feel like I've been collecting. I was already collecting, like my soul must have known about this book ahead of time, and I had already been collecting the material. And so for me, the writing process was more about putting together a lot of things that I had here and there, and it was very satisfying, and it felt like almost like an alchemy of sorts of being in the cauldron with this group, right? And I was able, because of that energy, it was able to hold me, to bring all these little pieces of me together into this story. And the story is actually about alchemy, and it's my process of rediscovering my connection to being an anointing, a priestess of anointing oils.
Oh, I love
So,
that. Yeah. I
yeah.
love when you mentioned that it like brought these pieces of almost like intuitive knowledge that's embedded in your soul and then bringing it to the forefront to be alchemized and delivered through a message. And in your case, a scent and oil.
Right.
It's pretty interesting because it is a frequency, and sometimes it takes time to percolate the energy to be at the right time, the right place, the right audience. And so I really like how you said that. That's very almost has like a very magical feel to it. So it has a lot to do with the timing and divine, divine timing. The divine always has its own timeline, right?
Yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Can you share a little bit about your thoughts on your role with the divine feminine and creating a better world for humanity?
Oh, yes, I would love to speak on that. I feel as I have, gotten older, I finally stepped into that role. Like before, I just I didn't know, I didn't know what was going on. Um, and then I think it was probably around my late 40s, I started to like know that it was now my responsibility to start to speak on behalf of the divine feminine. Before, I think I was kind of waiting for somebody else,
Yeah.
someone else to be doing it. And then it just hit me. I was like, no, it's your time now, and
Mhm.
I'm in my 50s now, and I just really feel like it's my responsibility. I have a young daughter, and I really want her not to go through most of her life not being
Yeah.
a voice of the divine feminine. So I just had a deep calling for me, it was once I got a little bit older and,
Yeah.
things just changed, priorities changed in my life. Yeah.
That's so relatable, and I feel like it hits everyone a little different at different in the age of kind of a number. It's all about an internal feeling. So
Mhm.
that's so relatable. What are your thoughts on why it's so important to have like a community or a sisterhood? Because that kind of, in my opinion, is connected to that. Because in some cases, some people really thrive on more support. Some people like to do things solo. So why do you feel it's important now more than ever to have that connectivity with our sisterhood and community?
That's a great question. And I mean, for me, I think it took me so long because I am, I go, there's design, people have different designs, right? And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail of that, but I'm one that's called a mystic or a hermit and a heretic, which means I need a lot of time alone. And so like I had to go through a lot of my life alone to figure out who I was. And then I could join the group, right? Then I could be in group because I knew who I was before I would join groups and I would get lost in them and I would take on other people's energies. And so I think it's really important, though, like you said, with the timing, some people can join groups right away because they're just designed and they know who they are, like when they're born, right? They just know. And those usually are the people who step out earlier. But being in community now, I think we were taken apart, at least for me, my generation, we were kind of put into more masculine roles. So, part of my story is talking about my role as, as a scientist and how I mean, that was very masculine energy. And then I had children and I had to shift into my feminine frequency because they need nurturing, not just protection. And so it made me realize how much that feminine frequency, I needed it to continue, to thrive in my life. I couldn't be alone anymore, right? And I really wanted to co-create with others because I started to feel how powerful when you come together, the synergy, that magic of other people's energies with yours when it comes together, and it just like it creates unbelievable shifts, I think, in consciousness in that way.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I like how you explain that. That's what's so powerful about a collaborative book too, because it really helps to bring forward a perspective that might be similar to yours, but you're like, I didn't see it that way, or I didn't have that way of expressing it, but that speaks to my soul. And so it kind of supports you to also open your eyes to different ways of doing things, and growing and expanding from your own internal perspective. Um,
yeah.
yeah. So with that being said, what do you hope that readers, when they pick up the book and they go to your chapter, what do you hope that when they read it, the frequency they receive and the message and overall just experience that they may have by reading your chapter?
Mm, thank you for asking that. Yeah, I feel like for me, it's about telling, women and I don't know, men too, we all have a feminine frequency in us. And it's okay wherever you're at, like, to accept your life, as it has been laid out for you, what you've experienced. And to know that eventually, if you trust and you're open to it, all those pieces start to come together,
Mm-hmm.
right? You start to find what your authentic voice is and your expression. And for me, it just happens to be, one of them was to create these goddess anointing oils. And so, not to limit yourself by your past, and to know that whatever you experienced in the past, there is wisdom that you can carry forward into new realms of expressing yourself. So freedom of expression, you
Yeah,
know, yeah.
absolutely. I know there's a sense of if if a person doesn't allow themselves to move forward from a past experience, there's a feeling of bondage, and I do feel that's very highly tapped into this the old ways of doing things that's
Old ways.
dominant of the masculine, and it's a very unbalanced feeling because the truth is we're constantly growing and expanding in order to move forward. A lot of forgiveness and compassion is required, which could be
Yeah.
perceived as a feminine energy, and in a way it is, but it's also masculine because the feminine, the masculine, it's an energy that could be neutral. Sorry, I'm doing this balance.
Mhm.
It could
No.
be neutral and balanced, and I like that you brought that up because a lot of the shame, guilt, those are very low frequencies, and I feel like the oils you're talking about will help shift a vibrational internal part of yourself to help you be on a different, I guess you would say, vibration, but just also keep your mind right too, because it keeps you on that
Mhm.
positive
Yeah,
perspective. Yeah.
it does. Yeah, it does. With essential oils, they work directly they work with a lot of your biochemistry, but the part of the brain is the amygdala. And
Mhm.
that's the part of the brain that's the mammalian brain, with its, like, the emotions, and
Okay.
our memories are stored with scents. And so the oils, like, immediately can shift your consciousness.
Yeah.
And so they're just some that the plants are just so generous with with them to us. I'm so very grateful to the plant kingdom for, letting us use their oils to shift our vibration to a higher state. Definitely.
Thank you for
Yeah.
saying that. I didn't know that. So you learn something
Mhm.
new every day.
That's what keeps life exciting, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny too because I've heard that before, but when you say it in that way, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a file in my brain that was not quite on the forefront of my knowledge. But yeah, that's amazing, and it's true. I agree with you. Nature's very healing. So
Mhm. Yeah.
could could you share with us a little bit about what your experience has been like working with Rada Publishing House, and overall, how did you feel during the process?
My overall experience, I feel, like I said, blessed. Like, I literally, I feel very lucky to be a part of this, because I, you know, Rada and her team hold everything to a very high level of integrity, which I feel is so important when you start to share messages out in the world, to have everything um, very, I'm going to say pure is the word that's coming through, but it's just a very high level frequency in this container, and I trust it. And so my experience has been one of feeling held, guided, and it almost has an essence of, like, yeah, like the goddess has been holding me, the entire time. And I've gotten to know some wonderful women in this process, which I think has opened my heart even more,
Mhm.
because in the past I had had, even in my youth, troubles with sisterhood,
Mhm.
right? And so this has been very healing. These kinds of collaborations are very healing for that part of me
That's so
from my
beautiful.
earlier life. Yeah.
I'm so happy for you.
Yeah.
Well, What do you think will set this apart then, the stories of the goddess, as far as, other divine feminine books out there? I mean, what makes this one so much more unique than the others?
Mm. Well, every book, is unique because of the ingredients that go into it. And so I
Mhm.
think that this book, the women that are in here, in it, the stories that we bring and we're mixing together, there is a higher level message that we may not even be aware of as
Yeah,
you and I are sitting here, talking. And that's what I'm really, once I get all those chapters and I get to read them, I'll have a better feel for exactly what that is. But for me, it feels like unconditional love is kind of what is coming through in that. And I don't, and that what sets it apart is that the book, reading the stories is an activation, but the book itself is like a magical tool. Like you just having that book, it starts to shift you, right? It's the energy that's in the book. And so I think that's one of the things that sets this book apart from others, is that it's not just words. It's
right.
like transmissions from the heart from these
Mhm.
women. So that's one of the things, and bringing to the forefront that divine feminine frequency,
Right.
you know.
That's so
Yeah.
beautiful. I agree with you on that wholeheartedly. I feel the energy already. And just even talking to several of the women, there's just such a beautiful synergy between what's being
Mhm.
said individually. And obviously, it says a lot about their, character, and, their intention and what, they're, hoping to be of service for. So that's so beautiful. I absolutely agree. So where could we find you? Let's say somebody reads your chapter and they want to connect with you. What do you have out there available for uh, individuals who are looking to connect?
Well, I have my website, which is www.patriciawaldhopkins.com. No hyphen in that. No hyphen between Wald and Hopkins, just patriciawaldhopkins.com. Or you can find me on Instagram as, Patricia Wald Hopkins, or on, Facebook. I also have a podcast called The Divinely Inspired Woman. So if you want to listen into some of those, you find out a little bit more about me and my guests, you can do that. So,
Wonderful. Well, I'll be sure to link all the information down below for you, as well as Rada Publishing House. And the book will be released for pre-sale March 23rd, guys. So be on the lookout, as well as
mhm.
the updated information for the Kindle and book version. So thank you, Patricia, for stepping into your embodiment as a leader and sharing your wisdom and being yourself. You have such a pureness about you that I just feel so nurtured in. And so I want to thank you for that. I honor the work that you do and look forward to seeing much more to come. So until next time, guys, bye for now.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.